Yo, 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 visualize shark takes, hit the wave grinding. In the chat, gun shark odds make it rhyming. Sunday vibes, smooth bets, no confining. Hats engaged, can't stop us from shining. Bet on the spread, liking it, keep it tight. Push the odds further, jack on a hindsight. Odds fellows mind grasping the right sight. Hats, caps on heads, winners in plain sight. Hit the like, get in the chat, feel the flow, cash it, every dollar see the bankroll. Sunday grind and picks, now you gotta know. Extra points on the screen, sharp minds always glow. Big parlays, predictions we home. Standing tall, betting knowledge all.
On a suddenly not so casual Thursday in December, it is Thursday, December 19th, 2024. NFL, the extra points. The big show, week 16, Thursday night football, and we're talking Saturday football on this show. It is the Shark. It is the Gun. We got a lot of conversation here. Guns picks. What's going on, brother?
Man, it's another beautiful Thursday. We got some college football. We got college basketball. It's the holiday season, and we are here to give you a little bit of Thursday night action and some Saturday plays. We got a bunch here coming up. This AFC West matchup that is got a look at the total and the side on that one. Denver versus the LA Chargers, SoFi Stadium tonight. Shark, I'm ready to do this. Let's go.
8:15 Eastern, 5:15 Pacific. A huge game in the AFC West, to the surprise of many. Going back to the summer, if somebody told me we'd have 9-5 Broncos, 8-6 Chargers, I wouldn't be wearing this hat, to be perfectly honest. I have changed in my evaluation of these teams. A lot going on in this game. We got a side, a prop, and a total. Throwing it to the gun first. Under 41.5.
Yeah, I decided to go with the total on this one, but Sharks got the side, and I can't knock them on the side. But let's talk about this game here for a second. Let's talk about the defenses first, right? What is best in opponent scoring on both sides of the ball? Denver, number one in opponent scoring, 8th in opposing yards per game, 2nd in opposing yards per play, and 2nd in opposing red zone. And then on the other side, you have 50 with the Chargers. They're great against opposing scoring, 15th in opposing yards per game, 1st in opposing red zone percentage, and 2nd in opposing opposing touchdowns per game. So both teams are 1 and 2 when it comes to giving up 10 touchdowns. They are bend, not break. But we got to look at the Chargers here. They used to put up 300 plus yards of offense, but as of late, look at their last 4 games. They put under 300 yards of total offense in 4 straight games, and they're getting outgained 144 net yards per game. They're 1 and 3 straight up and 2-2 ATS in that run. But in Denver, you can say, yeah, they're putting up some points, but most of those are at home. Last 4 games at home, 31, 41, 38, and 28. But on the road, there is a little bit of a different story. 29, 14, 10, and 33 of 14 and 10 were against good defenses, and I think we're going to see something similar tonight because the Chargers do have a good defense. And then you got to look at the Chargers. They're ranked 20th in offensive scoring and have regressed in the last 4 games. Like I said, they're only putting up 17 points per game in 3 straight games and 18.5 points per game in the last 4. And then when these teams match up with one another, the under is in play. 9-1 to the under in the last 10 versus these 2 teams. And the Chargers totals versus the AFC West have averaged 33.5 points per game. And that's 4-game sample size in that one. I just think this is going to be a low-scoring affair. Remember, the last time these 2 teams met, it did go over the total at 37. I believe the total was 23-16 at the end of that game. So I think it's going to be a little bit more of a rock fight here tonight in SoFi. So give me Denver, the Chargers, under the total at 41.5 as the play.
Yeah, my official here on this beautiful Thursday. We encourage you guys to get in the chat, fire up the libations. The buy hat is engaged. Taking the Broncos at +3 midweek, 2.5 now. Guns really laid the table for me. I'll jump off it. But when you look at the ATS side in this game, it really does connect with where the Chargers are right now. And I think I want to talk Denver, but I think the better part of this cap is looking at the Chargers. And the Chargers sit here 8-6 straight up, 9-5 ATS, off of a blowout in the second half on Sunday afternoon, getting outscored 30-0 to finish the game against Tampa Bay. And we say it every week on the extra points, but the bounce back is a really sexy narrative across gambling spheres across the world. I don't think it applies here. And I'm a person who has bought the Chargers week after week. I'm making an adjustment. And when you really look at the Chargers this year, their outright wins have come against a very poor Las Vegas team, the Carolina Panthers, a depleted, horrible New Orleans, depleted, horrible Cleveland, Tennessee, who is horrendous, Cincinnati, who can't get out of their own way, and they barely beat Atlanta in a game they got absolutely dominated. Their only impressive win this year was actually on the road in Denver in week 6, which brings us to the next point. It's hard to beat a divisional opponent 2 times in one season, particularly 2 teams that are so equally graded and constructed. We've said this before, we'll say it again. 2 young quarterbacks, 2 highly efficient young quarterbacks, 2 older coaches who had success with a previous team, now showing signs of doing it again the second time around. This is 2 teams that have almost an identical point differential in this division. And books like the Broncos here, we took the Chargers on the road in Denver in week 6 because that was a strong road line for the Chargers, who had gotten dominated by the Broncos in recent history. -3 road. You win by 7 on the road, a game you were up 23-0 in. You should be favored at home 6, 7, or 8. They're holding this low for a reason. J.K. Dobbins is injured. This team has looked putrid in recent weeks. And as Guns was mentioning, some of these yardage gaps are really disturbing. If you look at the Chargers on sample here, the last 5 weeks, they're getting outgained by 594 yards. That is literally domination against. And we were just talking about this before the show, but if you're really cratering down, you left a really funky game on record at Atlanta, where Atlanta outgained you 350 to 187, but Kirk Cousins donated 4 interceptions. Then you leave a really big effort at Kansas City and don't win late. Then you come back. You have a lead in the first half against Tampa Bay and fall apart. For me, that's like a marathon runner running a 4:30 mile for 24 and a half miles and then having absolutely nothing left. When you have nothing left, you don't bounce back to a full sprint in the very next game against a divisional opponent, top points against in the league in a huge revenge game. This is all over Denver tonight. I think the Chargers will bounce back in future weeks, as Guns was talking about before the show, against New England and Las Vegas. I actually think that Denver could win this game tonight by significant margin. And segueing to our only prop in this game, the prop gun on an indefinite heater this season, and I foresee it going on in future campaigns as well, because these are the sharpest props you will find on planet Earth. Aldrich Estime. No, this is not a French priest from the 1700s. This is a running back from Notre Dame by way of Northern New Jersey, heavyweight football, over 27.5 rush yards.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite running backs, him and Kyron Williams. But when you look at my props, you said it. 97, 51, and 1, 30.8 units, 65.5% hit rate on every single prop that I put out this year, and 23 and 14 on the video plays. And this is a prop gun play. I put the video out before the show, and I'm just going to give it to anybody that's going to be watching now. I'm on Audric Estime over on his rushing yards, 27.5 tonight. The Chargers defense has showed some struggles against the run. They're 26th in opposing rush yards per carry, 19th in opposing rush yards per game. If there's any way you can take advantage of this Charger team, it's running the ball. Now you got to look at the roster here. Denver's main running back, or at least their lead back, Jaleel McLaughlin, is going to be out for this game. So that's going to mean a lot more touches for Estime in this spot. Everybody says, okay, Javonte Williams is going to get a lot of touches. Yes, that's plausible, but they've been using him a lot more in the passing game than they are in the running game. And when you look at Estime is a power back, and that's going to be giving him the football in the backfield and having him run the ball is more in his wheelhouse versus Javonte Williams, who would rather catch it in the backfield on screen passes, what have you. Audric Estime, you got to look at his totals this season on average: 4.6 carries, 20.4 rushing yards per game. And the line is set here at 27.5, 28.5, depending on what books you get it at. That's 7 to 8 yards rushing above his season average. So I just think Estime in this position, knowing that Jaleel McLaughlin is out for this game, he's going to get a lot more touches, a lot more looks in this game, which means he's going to get a lot more rushing yards here tonight versus a team that is at the bottom in rush defense with the LA Chargers. So I'm going to take Estime over his rushing yards, 27.5 as the play.
Yeah, and just one final point on this game. I really do want to emphasize that because I just kind of get blown away when I consider the fact that people look at this game and they think it's got to be an auto bounce back, because when you really look at schedule flow, you have to consider where a team is driving their energy up or down. And if you really look at the Chargers, they came out this season with significant upward momentum. When a team lets down, like I said, in the back end of a marathon, like an actual running race, they don't have any energy left. So I really think margin could come tonight. Great conversation here. And we're segueing to Saturday. Saturday is up for Sunday. At the first Saturday football games of the year, December 21st, it will be. Two great games on the docket. Both of these teams also playing on Christmas Day. All four of these teams. So very interesting schedule spots for all of them. I am going on record for the first time with this play. We were waiting for this all week to confirm if Patrick Mahomes was going to play in this game. We're taking Houston at plus 3.5 for 1 unit. And if you really go through this, there's a lot of angles as to why Houston is the side here. Statistically, Houston is an ATS buy low. If you go back to a period of time mid-season, Houston was 2-4 ATS weeks 8 through 13. I'll tell you this. They're far better than a team that should be covering 33% of their games. They're much better, and you're seeing upward movement since. Speaking of upward movement, something we've detailed going back to last season is the pattern recognition with CJ Stroud in terms of divisional opponents and out-of-division road versus home. Stroud was notably terrible to start his career ATS road outside of the division, 2-4 in his first 6. There was a game week 6 at New England this year where Houston was laying 7 points. And we said it on that Sunday. One of two things is going to happen here, and there's no middle ground. Either Stroud is going to get his ass kicked by the Patriots, and books have no idea what they're doing, or books are saying Stroud is going to figure it out and improve emphatically road outside of the division. And he did. 41-21 blowout. And I think more importantly, stayed on the road in week 7 and covered as an underdog at Green Bay, the same number, plus 3.5. So this is not just Stroud covering against real fraudulent teams as a significant favorite. This is contenders as a dog on the road now. And going to the KC side of this game, we've been fading KC all year with success. They were 0-7 for 7 consecutive weeks until they covered last week at Cleveland. For those of you guys who watched the show last week, we detailed for about 5 minutes why Kansas City was going to cover that game. I'm still wondering myself why we didn't say it was official, the key word. But for those of you guys who watched the show, we really did like Kansas City last week in immense detail. But key point, that was fading Jameis Winston in his sample outside of the division where he'd been a complete gas can. And what do you know? 3 interceptions later, Jameis takes a loss, a non-cover, and now he's benched. So we completely nailed that. But now this returns to where Kansas City has not performed well at all, and I don't think they're going to improve. 2-5 ATS at home, 0-3 last 3, all divisional opponents weighted in the same range as Houston, all 2-point wins, 2 of which, actually all 3 of which, could have been outright losses. Mahomes has a high ankle sprain. He's been on record saying this team struggles to find focus over the holidays. They don't play well at home. They have a look-ahead game to Christmas Day. It's a horrendous spot for the Chiefs. Absolutely love Houston here. I think Houston could get a win and trend upward in their road environment. Guns, I know you align with this. You said you were going to write it up, but talk to me.
Yeah, I wanted to write it up, but I was waiting on the news that I wanted to confirm that Pat Mahomes was going to play in that game because I didn't want to be on the wrong side of the line on the sheer fact that, you know, if Carson Wentz does play, I guess I would be on the right side of the line hitting a 3. But when you look at this game, the line was sitting at 3 even before the news came out that Pat Mahomes was officially or likely to play. I think is what is the verbiage that has been used by the reporters now. I look at it, he's got to play at this game, right? He has 3 games left. He has the toughest part of their schedule. Got to play Houston. They're going to play at Pittsburgh and at Denver to finish off the year. And they got Buffalo breathing down their neck, having to finish the year. If the Buffalo wins outright, and then if Kansas City loses 2 out of the next 3, which is plausible, then they would get the number 1 seed and the home field advantage in the playoffs. But you said most of the notes that I have on this one. 3 straight 2-point wins at home inside the division. And then I look at some validity on the total on this one because when you look at their home splits on this one, when they go over, it's usually at 45 plus, 45.5, 46.5, 47.5. Those have been their overs at home, but everything below that has been under 43.5, 42.5, 42, 43, and this one's sitting at 42 right now. This is another one of those spots that you're probably going to get a very close game. I don't know what side it's going to be on, if this is going to be a Houston outright win, or is it going to be a 3-point fluke win from Kansas City with Mahomes getting a PI and a field goal at the end, because that's how Kansas City works these days. The refs love the Chiefs. But in this case, if you get anything over a 3, it is a absolute smash spot here to go take the Texans. I think the Texans are going to want to get hungry and get wins here, even though they've won the South and kind of already put themselves in a position to be in the playoffs. I don't know how much movement they are looking for in terms of seeding. I guess we'll have to see about that one. But I think Houston was going to step up in this game, whereas you have a limping around Pat Mahomes versus a very good defense. DeMeco Ryans will have those guys humming on Saturday. I think this is a perfect spot to take Houston. I think it's a good spot to take the under as well. I might be on the under and Houston here.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the playoff picture, as you said, Kansas City is actually 2 games ahead of Buffalo with some tough games to go. This is not the easy finish that they want at all. I mean, this is 3 straight playoff teams they're playing going into the playoffs, which at some point they're going to give one away. They're probably not going to sweep this cluster of games. And, you know, the easiest game was last weekend. And part of what we said to you guys last weekend about the Cleveland game, outside of the Jameis Winston conversation, if you're really entering a gauntlet, if you want to call it that, where you have to play Sunday, Saturday, and Wednesday, based on any conventional normal standards, you're going to play your best ball when you're fresh the first game of the 3, and you're going to kind of just crater down. Of course, in contemporary sports, football, basketball, others, sometimes guys tank the front end and find it late, but we got it right with Kansas City. They played well the first one. I think it's going to crater down here. And in terms of the Houston playoff picture, as you mentioned, they've already clinched the division. I think there's 2 elements here. One, they can actually move up to the 3 seed if they win out, which I think is very important because they want to avoid Baltimore in the first round. Baltimore is that team who could be wild card, who they'd have to play if they stay in the 4-5 matchup. They don't want to go out in the first round at home to a really top-level Baltimore team who's just lost a few games this year. And second of all, I think more than even just this calendar spot and the playoff race, Patrick Mahomes and these guys have absolutely earned the right to be called the current GOAT of contemporary football. They get the best effort from players every week. It doesn't matter. So there's no trap games against the Chiefs. Every team plays this team tough. It's like LeBron in basketball historically. The best players always get the best effort from the other team, and the best players can't always turn up their quality. And I think this is really a crater zone spot. I could absolutely see Houston winning this game outright, unofficially at plus 3.5, 4:30 p.m. on Saturday.
You see Buffalo's schedule at the end of this one? AFC East. That's all they got is conference games. They got to play the Jets and once at home, and then they got to play New England twice. That's the end of their schedule. They play New England, Jets, New England. I was like, so for them, They got an easy street. They got the red carpet rolled out for them to win the rest of their games. I think this Kansas City team is sitting there with the back against the wall here in this game. And moving forward, they got to play the Pittsburgh, they got to play Denver. I mean, it is a tough road ahead there for a Kansas City team that you may see be the number 2 seed going into the playoffs.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And another thing we've detailed not necessarily week after week, but definitely a few times throughout this season, is that the Chiefs won the Super Bowl last year going on the road to Buffalo for a playoff game. So as much as they want the number 1 seed to play at Arrowhead in January, they know they don't absolutely need it. And what they need more than home field advantage is to be rested, not fatigued, and not injured. And I really believe that. I'm actually surprised they're putting Mahomes out there. Like, I get it. They want the 1 seed. But if I'm the Chiefs, I know what I did last year. And I know I'd much rather be feeling fresh in the middle of January to play at Buffalo. Or actually, it would be late January. It'd be the AFC Championship game. But that's a month away. Get refreshed. And I think, the coaching staff is the one who puts them in here. Mahomes is obviously a gamer, but it's a Texas
better on the road anyways. That team plays better on the road than they do at home. I think if anything, that going to Orchard Park in January is a perfect spot for them rather than playing in Arrowhead against a hungry Buffalo team that Josh Allen he just can't get past Kansas City in the playoffs. That's been his kryptonite.
Yeah, absolutely. Next game here. Speaking of not being able to get by a team, really kind of incomprehensible stuff here. Ravens hosting the Steelers, 4:30 on Saturday in Baltimore. The Steelers are 8-1 straight up last 9 against the Ravens. When I was handicapping this, I have to be honest, I was shocked to see that. That is some bizarre domination between 2 divisional opponents where it's not even close to that one-sided in theory. And I'm going to give a cap on this, Guns. You said you were leaning towards the under, I believe.
I'm on the under officially.
Officially.
So, talking about this game when we talk about Pittsburgh and Baltimore, you got Baltimore that's 9-5 in the year, plus 6-point differential, plus 84 net yard average, and you have a Pittsburgh team that is coming off a loss to Philly. Maybe cratering down. We'll have to see about that one, but they're 10-4 on the year with a plus 5-point differential, plus 9 net yard average. Both these teams excel in the scoring range, right? You look at both of these teams, 10th in offensive scoring for Pittsburgh versus a Baltimore team that is 3rd in offensive scoring. Then on the defensive side of the ball, Pitt does have a slight advantage. They're 6th in opponent scoring versus a Baltimore team that is 22nd in opposing scoring this season. Baltimore, but the strength of each offenses is the strength of each one's defenses. Baltimore is a run first oriented offense. They're 4th in rush play percentage, 1st in rush play yards per game, 2nd in rush yards per yards per carry, 2nd in rush yards per game, and they're 5th in rush touchdowns per game. And then you have a Pittsburgh team that is one of the best in rush defense this year. They're ranked 5th in opposing rush yards per carry and 4th in opposing rush yards per game. And then you got to just look at the quarterback here. Lamar Jackson just hasn't done well versus a Pittsburgh defense historically. He has a 66.2 QB rating against them in his career. And the Baltimore offense has averaged 16.9 points per game versus Pittsburgh in that sample size. And then you have a Baltimore passing game that is held under 150 passing yards in 7 out of the last 11 meetings versus Pittsburgh. So you got to look at that. Then we got to look at the roster of this one. Pittsburgh might be without George Pickens once more for the 3rd week in a row because he's got a hamstring injury. Look how Pittsburgh's offense has performed without Pickens in the lineup. Pittsburgh has only put up 147 yards versus Cleveland in the passing game, and then 107 passing yards versus Philly last week. So he is a huge piece in the puzzle of that Pittsburgh passing offense. And these two teams when these two teams meet, it's a battle of the defensive units. The under is hit 8 straight in 8 meetings versus these two opponents. 18-16 was the previous matchup this season, where the total was 48.5 in that spot. Now you're seeing it down to 44.5, 45.5, depending on what books you get it at. I just think this is going to be a low-scoring affair between 2 AFC North rivals here, and you're just going to have a battle here. Who's going to come out on top? I guess we'll have to see. Can Jackson actually put up some yards? Can Jackson actually do something against his Pittsburgh defense? That's going to be a key here. But I like the under on this one. Give me the under on this one. Pittsburgh, Baltimore, 45.5 as the play.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And dropping off it, again, dropping it first time officially on record, taking Baltimore at -6 for 1 unit. And I think you're just finding a really nice buy low for Baltimore in numerous angles here. 9-5 straight up, only 7-6-1 ATS, only 3-3 ATS at home, and 0-1 ATS at home inside of the division. And this truly is a massive revenge game. As I said, Pittsburgh is 8-1 last 9 against Baltimore, 4-0 last 4. And this game has huge divisional implications. Pittsburgh is sitting first in the division at 10-4, 1 game better than Baltimore. And Baltimore has a better point differential, plus 86 versus plus 71. And if you go to the game that was played this year, Baltimore has laid some eggs this year and some incomprehensible games on record here. This has to be number 1, in my opinion. Baltimore took an 18-16 loss in Pittsburgh, outgained Pittsburgh 329-303, but the first half is where it all got away from them. Baltimore had 2 first-half fumbles in their own territory. Most noteworthy, the second play of the game, Derrick Henry fumbled. You know how infrequent that guy fumbles? I had Baltimore on that week. I lost the bet. When I saw Derrick Henry lay the ball on the field on the second play, I said, uh-oh, here we go. And we did go that direction heavily to close the half. Isaiah Likely fumbled on their own 38-yard line, 17-yard line, and Pittsburgh got 2 field goals out of those 2 fumbles. Speaking of field goals, Justin Tucker missed 2 field goals in the first half. So when you actually look at that dispersion, you can never expect Derrick Henry to fumble in his own end, giving away 3 points. And you really don't expect Isaiah Likely to lay the ball on the ground in his own end either, give away 3 points. So they gave them 6, and Tucker missed 6. So that's actually a 12-point swing just based on insane variance going against them. If you do a 12-point reversal in that game, 18-16 Pittsburgh becomes 22-12 Baltimore. So the point is, you can't expect these crazy outliers to continue. And if you look at what Pittsburgh is doing here on record, I think they're just in an awful spot. Gunn said it. Maybe they're cratering down. I think they are. And if you really look at what they're doing here, 10-4 straight up, 10-4 ATS, key point, when they cover, they win outright. We don't think they're going to win outright in Baltimore, which would suggest a non-cover. And these W's with Russell Wilson at quarterback, Giants, Jets, Washington, the outlier game against Baltimore, a Cincinnati team that doesn't play an ounce of defense, and a win against Cleveland in recent history, very unimpressive. And we mentioned it with the Chiefs spot and the other game we discussed tonight, the Chargers spot, in terms of where a team bottoms out. That's kind of where they are, and they're not going to come right back up. Pittsburgh just got their ass kicked in Philadelphia, like obliterated physically on the field. And all these, in recent history, the conversation has always been the game after the Niners, teams can't play. Then it became the game after the Lions, teams can't play. I think you have to look at the game after the Eagles. The Eagles bring insane physicality offensively with Saquon Barkley in their scheme and defensively. And Pittsburgh got absolutely dominated last week. Philadelphia, 401 yards versus only 163 for Pittsburgh. Philadelphia, 26 first downs to only 10. And I've written down here, I'll just read it. Pittsburgh just got their ass kicked at Philadelphia. TJ Watt is mildly injured. Russell Wilson is capping the market against soft teams. Pickens is injured. Now you got to go on a short week to an angry Baltimore team who you outliered earlier this year, and you're 8-1 last night against, and you have a short week look ahead. You got to reserve some energy to play at Kansas City on Christmas Day. This is an abysmal spot for this team. And one final point, which I found to be very interesting. Lamar Jackson has only played one career home game against Pittsburgh. I was looking at this about an hour and a half ago, and I was like, wait, really? How did I not know about this? Since 2018, his rookie year, Flacco home game against Pittsburgh. Robert Griffin III played for Baltimore against Pittsburgh in 2019. Lamar Jackson, his only home game, COVID year 2020. And the three most recent games, all Tyler Huntley. So this idea that Pittsburgh owns Lamar Jackson and the Ravens is complete fool's gold. He has one game on record, and it was in the COVID year 4 years ago. And that game was a ridiculous outlier. Baltimore lost the game 28-24. It was Ben Roethlisberger late career versus Lamar. Baltimore outgained Pittsburgh in that game 457-221. They were up 17-7 at the half, and they had 4 turnovers to give the game away. This is all over Baltimore. It is the heaviest spot in years. It is the ultimate buy low within the matchup, the division, and the situation, and an incredible sell for Pittsburgh in a brutal road sequence. Absolutely love Baltimore here at -6, and I might get to the first half. Guns, any thoughts on the side?
The first half is probably the look that I want on that one because of just how Baltimore has performed in that position. And I think coming off that loss, and there's one other element that I don't think you talked about in that game where it finished 18-16, is they had a 2-point conversion that could have tied that game. They scored the touchdown. They went into the 2-point conversion. And guess who wasn't on the field for that? Derrick Henry. Why isn't Derrick Henry on the field? They decided to run I don't even know if it was a busted play or what, but it looked like Lamar Jackson was just running sideways, and then Pittsburgh ended up tackling him, and that was the end of the game. But that you have to put your biggest weapon in there to go and make that run in, and it was just a bad play call in there by Harbaugh. So that was another thing. It was just a bonehead move on that one. So just mistake after mistake after mistake, and you were still in the game. So yes, Baltimore, in my opinion, is the better team in this spot. But I think seeing them come out strong in the first half is probably the way I want to go in that, knowing that this offense is really struggling without George Pickens. If George Pickens is not in that game, it is a hammer spot here for Baltimore. That's something that we have to watch for because that offense absolutely suffers when he's not in the lineup. I don't know if it's just because there's no comfortability for Russell Wilson with the receivers or anything like that, but it seems like that team really it struggles in the passing game when he's not in there. So that is going to be something that we're going to have to watch is George Pickens. Is he going to be available for that game on Saturday? We'll have to see, but I'm still on the total, and I think the first half is going to be a look for me as well.
Yeah, and something that is not having to do with this game directly, but I think it's very interesting. Go back to Monday Night Football. You saw a game where the Vikings were laying 6.5 points at home. The Vikings had not covered a game on the road in Chicago in egregious outlier fashion, and they laid 6.5 at home in the following game, which was the same line split, 3 road, 6.5 home, identical weighting. And you guys saw what the Vikings did to the Bears on Monday Night Football. It's the same thing. Baltimore outliered a game on the road at -3, 6.5 here. And another great example of this, the Lions this week are laying 6.5 on the road at Chicago off an egregious non-cover at home against Chicago prior. This is the third matchup in the last 2 weeks inside of the division where there's a 3-point gap versus an opponent that outliered a cover prior. And this is all over Baltimore. I absolutely love this spot. Might get to 2 units on Saturday afternoon. Taking a breath. 34 minutes in the books. A fiery show here on this Thursday night, week 16, December 19th, 2024. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us. We know the holidays. People are probably at their holiday parties right now, gambling, doing whatever the hell you're doing. We send you guys the best vibes through the screen. A lot of top plays tonight. The buy hat is engaged Denver +3. The gun on Denver Chargers under 41.5. And a prop from the prop gun, Audric Estime over 27.5 rush yards. I'm also on Houston +3.5, a collaboration with the gun. Baltimore -6, as just discussed. And the gun on the under in that game at, I believe, what was your number? 43.5?
45.5. Are you talking which one are you talking about? The Pittsburgh
Baltimore
one?
game. Baltimore.
Yeah, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, 45.5.
Absolutely love it. We appreciate you guys immensely. NFL The Extra Points will be back on Sunday with the Odds Fellow for the full card. And CFB Knowledge for College will be back tomorrow night at a early 6 o'clock time, pre-college football playoff. Notre Dame versus Indiana. The gut is already nervous. He told me he's got the butterflies going off there. I wish I could be that much of a fan. I haven't been a fan like that in a decade or more. I'm honestly jealous of that. It's so fun to have a team you care that much about. And we will be in full discussion tomorrow night of the college football playoff. We appreciate you guys immensely. As I said, sending you guys great vibes. Have a great night. Guns Picks, closing out with some words, and let's dominate.
Yeah, it's the final piece of the fandom puzzle. I've seen all my teams win championships. I've seen my teams win multiple championships. And the white whale or the white elephant is Notre Dame. I need them to win a championship before I leave this planet. And by God, please do it this year, because I can't take you guys anymore. You guys are stressed. I'm going to vomit. I'm going to piss blood. I'm not going to sleep tonight, but I'm going to be ready for that Notre Dame game tomorrow versus Indiana. But I appreciate everybody that's been joining us here. Please like and subscribe to the Guns Picks channel. Please like and subscribe to the Shark and Waters Nation channel, and check us out on X at Guns Picks, at Shark in Sports 88. And please, let's have ourselves a damn Thursday, and let's cash some tickets. Let's dominate the board. Let's go Irish! And as always, ooh, let's keep dancing. Yeah, bang!